Putin will be a pariah on the international stage.
Russia has never been so isolated. We have never been more united.
NATO and the West are united. And right now he's dealing with crippling financial sanctions in his country while he has become a pariah in the world.
The unjustified invasion and violence against civilians in Ukraine has pushed the West to impose sanctions that threaten to isolate Russia from all but a handful of allies. Without an economic relationship with the West, where is Russia headed?
There was a period of time where a lot of people in the West, a lot of governments in the West thought that the way to engage Russia was through business and through trade, that Russia would someday come to our side.
In Europe, we share a vision of a European Atlantic community whole, free, and at peace. Russia should be a part of this Europe.
I think this war has proven that that philosophy is just completely bunk at this point. We are past the point of no return.
If you really step back, the post-Cold War period, there was general stability, there was a sense of great power peace, and that the countries in Europe would sort of continue to expand and take in Eastern European countries. Russia would find some place, the United States would play a supportive role in all this. That whole notion, that whole era seems to have dissipated. Vladimir Putin does consider, I think, the Ukrainians a lost tribe of this Russian world. And he really is determined to either cripple it or to absorb it if possible. He's having some trouble doing that.
Russia is not only facing a resolved Ukraine, but also the international community who is standing behind them, providing support.
I want Ukrainian people to know that the world sees you, hears you, and is in awe of your resilience and resolve.
The images of civilians with their hands tied behind their back who are shot execution style. The way that Russia has fought this war in a way that is so obviously meant to terrorize and inflict pain and suffering on civilian non-combatants is an indication that Russia simply cannot be treated the way it has before. That this is a war crime.
But what does it actually mean for Russia to be considered a pariah state? Pariah states are outcasts of the international community. While there is no set definition, an analysis of American policymakers found the United States punishes pariah states based on 5 categories: the development of weapons of mass destruction, involvement in terrorism, posing a military threat, challenging international norms, and most recently, cyber threats. The United States currently designates 4 countries as state sponsors of terrorism: Cuba, North Korea, Iran, and Syria. But foreign policy is always evolving. Cuba was removed from the list of state-sponsored terrorists by President Obama before returning under President Trump.
Effective immediately, I am canceling the last administration's completely one-sided deal with Cuba.
And as America shuns Russia, the U.S. has begun softening relations with Iran and Saudi Arabia, who President Biden promised during his campaign to make a pariah for killing journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
No justice, no peace.
I would make it very clear. We were going to, in fact, make them pay the price and make them, in fact, the pariah that they are.
We have an interest globally in maintaining a steady supply of energy, including through our diplomatic efforts. We have a multiplicity of interests and use diplomacy to try to advance them.
As punishing Russia continues to create an energy shortage, it's clear that more powerful countries are harder to isolate.
Russia is a member of the UN Security Council, has a veto power there. It is just a major actor in the world stage in so many ways. So isolating Russia, shaming it, making it a pariah is a huge challenge.
While the European Union has agreed to phase out Russian oil imports by 90% over 2022, they currently rely on Russia for 40% of their natural gas and 25% of their oil.
The fact we have not shut down sanctions completely on the Russian energy economy means they're earning money every day from our own energy dependence on them.
While the West faces challenges in isolating Russia, Russia is running out of trade partners.
Russia has not done too well with allies. Today, its real allies are only also pariah states. It's Assad's Syria, it's Venezuela, it's Cuba, and that's about it. Others tolerate Russia. They figure out ways to deal with it, sort of in the former Soviet space, but they're not really allies, which leaves really just China. In early February, Russia and China signed an agreement that said they have this so-called unlimited partnership. They have sort of adopted a pro-Russian neutrality, if you can call it that. They're not full force supporting Putin. China actually has good relations with Ukraine. Xi Jinping does not want to have chaos, turbulence all across Eurasia. China's economy is so much more deeply integrated with Western economies than is Russia, and it's much more of a factor in the global economy.
Russia can't rely entirely on China, as sweeping Western sanctions have the potential to cripple their economy.
The major sanction is on the Russian central bank. This was a surprise to the Russians, that the West would go that far, that fast. It was, some would say, sort of the nuclear option in terms of sanction. You shut off the Russian government's ability to tap the world's capital markets.
Russian GDP, by their own estimates, is expected to fall by between 8 and 12%. This is the sharpest contraction since 1994. Other former finance officials in Russia put that number closer to 30%.
Crippling sanctions may lead to jobs disappearing and savings lost if the ruble crashes, making it difficult for Russians to meet their basic needs. At the beginning of the invasion, several thousand Russians took to the streets to protest. They've since been silenced. While accurate polling in Russia can be difficult, overall Russians have been in support of Putin's actions.
There's a certain paradox to Putin's hold on power, that while he is driving the country toward the abyss, his approval ratings are quite high.
The Russian people have come to support Putin. He has provided them with things that those who remember the Yeltsin years and the turbulent, first post-Soviet years when it was kind of a free-for-all.
Putin is a known entity. He is someone who has been a stable hand for years, and there's really no clear person to replace him at this point.
The Russian people are known through history of suffering. They have shown tremendous endurance in many different situations. So accepting the pain of this by many might be just seen as that's what we have to do. That's our part in the conflict.
But the longer these sanctions continue, Russians face a future of physical and technological isolation as the world innovates and Russia is left behind.
Russians have gotten used to a relatively high standard of living in the last couple of years, and as that begins to fade away, we might start to see the first bubblings up of social discontent.
I think they've lost a sense of their future. They don't know where their future lies now. Does it lie with Vladimir Putin?
Russian citizens are no longer able to travel into Europe because of bans on the use of European airspace by Russian aircraft. It's very difficult for Russians to spend their money abroad because of banking sanctions.
And life expectancies were already going down as they struggle with health problems beyond the pandemic.
Russia is not just Moscow. It's a huge state that has some real infrastructure problems and has a hard time providing a basic standard of living to folks who are on the periphery.
There is no sign of the conflict in Ukraine ending, and for that, Russia is paying a steep price that may define Putin's legacy. But the West's resolve also comes at a price. Russia's energy resources, nuclear arsenal, and sheer size prove that it isn't as easy to isolate as other pariah states.
It seems that there's going to simply be a protracted confrontation with the West and with a number of other countries for quite some time. I don't see an easy resolution to this.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.